This Hangout on air is live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Learning Circles Hangouts. We've been doing these for quite some time now, and today we're down one man. Brent Schlanka couldn't join us for whatever reason. He is off the grid now. I
He
hope
is
he's okay.
in.
But we have Craig here with us, and he has a lot to share. I don't have anything to share besides being busy with my basement, which is more work than you would think.
Oh, what are you doing? What's going on there?
Renovating,
Oh,
painting.
right. I remember
Uh,
there was a lot of knocking. One of the past times we were doing this, there was a lot of knocking
yeah,
going on.
it's still going. It's. I think we started in December, and it's still going.
Oh man. Well, it'll
Putting
be
up
worth it in the end.
sheetrock and
It'll be worth it in the end. I assume you're tunneling underneath your neighbor's house and to a bank or something.
it's
Okay.
kind of like good learning design, you know. First you build the foundation, and then oh man, I had to bring that around. See,
Then you tap
very
into the
nice.
transatlantic. Anyway. Yeah.
That was
Um,
funny for our zero viewers right there.
so yeah, I've had a busy. Like last week was pretty busy for me. So I don't. We can probably talk about a few of the things. I guess just update.
Cool. This is
I
Craig's show, by the way, because he's the only one sharing a lot that happened
Okay,
this
so
past week.
awesome. So I'll take it away.
Go ahead.
So as people probably already know, and for which I will take several drinks of, non-adulterated coffee. I've been working with the XAPI design cohort for the past several weeks. We are nearing the end of the whole thing. We're getting where I think we just finished week 12 out of 14, so we're getting out of the wire. A really cool thing is that we're taking a lot of video footage of presentations where people are, actually showing their solutions. So people, just yesterday, one of the teams, there was Team Magic 8 Ball and there was Team Wink. They did different presentations. One was tracking healthcare simulations, so like virtual patient simulation data, and then exporting that to XAPI statements, which was really cool. Another one was working with SharePoint, which and basically allowing you to basically track your actions within SharePoint, so you could report on the kind of learning experiences you might be having working within SharePoint, which is great. They did a really great job in making sure that it was encapsulated in a web part. I don't know if you've ever worked with SharePoint before,
Yeah.
how much of a pain it can be, but theoretically, if you get everything set up correctly, it's you have a web part, you have different type of web parts, you just drop them in. Well, this was a web part and it actually tracks everything you do. It'll give you a record, you can see your history, and of course it exports everything to the LRS, so it's a great, easy way to start shipping XAPI data about activities within a learning context or a performance context. So I thought it was brilliant. I am looking forward to the 14th of July when we'll be holding the XAPI bootcamp here in Alexandria, Virginia. I'll have details about it. I don't have a website up just yet, but I'll be working on that later today. So that's one XAPI story, one drink.
Well, let's go back to the SharePoint one, for example. That's a practical one. Nobody really wants to deal with editing and configuring SharePoint and all that kind of stuff. How do you
Yeah.
think XAPI can maybe even incentivize people to actually do it and do it right? And how do you think it can reinforce learning, for example? On-the-job learning plus, maybe it is supplemental to a course, or it's actually rewarding people for what they actually do on the job with SharePoint.
Well, I think there's two things here. One, I think SharePoint is one of those cases where it is, for a lot of companies still, it is a knowledge management platform, right?
Hmm.
And like a lot of knowledge management platforms, it's not unless it comes with some sort of analytics layer, to tell you what people are doing, and even those are not that great, in my opinion. There's no way to really understand. You can track assessments, in courses that are actually served within SharePoint with things like SharePoint LMS and things like that. But if you want to know what people are doing or what resources they're using or what resources they are not using or things that they're sharing, you kind of have a hard way to go. This plugin that they work on, this web part, it is part way towards making sure that you're capturing that information. So I think it can provide a lot of information about the performance of your knowledge management system and the configuration that you should have, or that what you have configured that does not work well. The other thing is that it takes time. It makes it easier for people to. Well, sorry, let me back up. They're working to actually take it beyond SharePoint. so that it will work on other social collaboration knowledge management systems, which would be really interesting to see how people are using their social collaboration and knowledge management networks within the corporate context. Hey, Melissa, how you doing?
Hey,
Hey.
I
We
thought
were
you were going
talking.
to join us later.
Oh, my meeting ended early, so
Ooh,
I'm
Oh,
here.
lucky us.
that's nice. Yeah.
So you mentioned the web part. You said system configurations, all that stuff. It's not tracking user input.
It is tracking. It can track user input if configured properly. One of the interesting things about it was actually SharePoint is perfect for getting, that XAPI statements are actor, verb, object. So it's
I see.
you can pull that actor data really easily because people log in and have that information like at the ready. A lot of social collaboration systems, in fact, are like that. So this is in my opinion, it's a really good blueprint for other type of information. So it could track user input, or you could track other things. But this in particular was basically about interaction with certain parts, certain web parts, or certain things that are embedded in a SharePoint page. Anyway, it's really interesting. I really thought it was
Cool.
one of many interesting XAPI designs and prototypes that are coming out of the design cohort this year, and we'll be showcasing those on the 15th of July here in the Alexandria, Virginia ADL office. We should be broadcasting those via GoToWebinar, so I'll have data about that in a future episode of Learning Circles Hangout, or I'll throw it out on the web as I do.
Nice.
There's a bunch of other stuff, but I want to hear what Melissa's been up to because she's been traveling the world.
Oh, she's on mute.
I forgot I was on mute. Hey. What was that?
Nice job.
Yes.
So, what would you like to know? I mean, it's been a
How
while, right?
Okay. Link your travels through Thailand to the accelerating status of the Learning Record Store. Go.
What? Wait, what?
Wow. Throw that one out.
So, well, Thailand was really cool. I actually haven't written anything about like relating learning to travel and all that kind of stuff. But culturally, it was so different. It was very different.
We want to let you talk, but there was one thing that I saw that you did that it's something I'm always trying to do, subconsciously and subconsciously, I guess. That is, how can this be done? How can I take advantage of this for learning, my own and other people, helping other people learn as well? And I saw that you posted on your website some stock photos that you took from Thailand.
Oh yeah.
So I think you out there to help the community with stock photo you took, right? And you're using that on your website to give it away to the community. So I think that's a really cool collaboration mindset that you have, turning that into a learning opportunity,
I wish I had that. Huh.
I did it because oh, I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Yes.
Let me see.
So I did it because there's all these different stock photo websites out there, like Death to Stock Photos and all that, where you can just download any photos. So I was like, hey, why don't I do this on the trip? And I didn't realize it until like the middle of the trip, and I just decided like in the middle of the trip to start taking pictures.
So are you? I mean, the photos are good. It kind of makes me wonder. I mean, like a lot of us have, photos from trips to places, and I myself was in Thailand back in 2011. I've got like a ton of photos that some of which are just open vistas and beaches and processions and open squares and things like that. And yeah, after you started realizing that you were doing it, did you start kind of assembling your photos, so to speak, or assembling the composition of photos so to be more useful to people?
I kind of wish that I did that, because when I was taking the photos, I wasn't thinking, oh, people will use this for learning. I wasn't even thinking people would use it. But then in the middle of my trip, when I was taking them, I was like, oh, I should probably take some photos that people could use for presentations,
right? Or
like for marketing of something. So I was kind of gearing more of them towards that type of thing. But I think next time if I go somewhere like that, I'll definitely try to take like more pictures that you could use for learning, like of technology, of the culture, of that type of stuff. So I wish I had done more of that.
Did you check out any Thai box or Muay Thai while you were out there?
No, I didn't.
Oh man, that's like half of what I did while I was there. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. So there is a colleague of mine, Rachel Barnum, who.
Oh, Rachel's great. I met
actually,
her in real life.
Oh, have you met her in real life?
Yes.
We live not that far away, and she and I have not yet met in real life. So I need to buy her coffee at some point.
She's very cool.
This is my understanding. She just started today, I think, creating some things in Illustrator, some drawings in Illustrator, and I think she's just putting them out there for people to use. And it kind of hit me, like you were just talking about this right now, about kind of deciding, okay, I'm going to take, create content, so to speak, visual content. I'm just going to put it out there for people to use because I know how much of a pain in the butt it is to get, the photos that I like. And I kind of wish this had been a thing a couple years ago. Maybe it was and I wasn't aware, but I think we all should be doing this.
I think it's a new thing. I think it's new the last 2 years that people are really just putting their stuff out there. And even some of the e-learning heroes challenges, one was just to make a whole stock image library. So
Right.
I did another one, and it's on my website. It's all computers and office space and stuff like that.
Oh.
And then we did an icon one. So I did travel icons because I was traveling, and I was like, oh, these are some of the things I saw when I was on the plane. So.
Right.
I did that. I think it's huge now. Just people crowdsourcing all this stuff.
Yeah,
I think it's especially with the rise of Creative Commons and licenses like that. I think people have been more sharing than they have been in our field for a long time, right? You can just upload your photos to Flickr and put them on Creative Commons and let people reuse, reshare, attribution or not, whatever it is,
It's true.
Well, I do want to know, how did you consider the licensing for these? Oh, did we lose Benza? I think we lost.
The licensing?
Yeah.
Are they under any type of license, actually? The ones that you created?
The ones so on my download page, because my site has a whole freebies download page, I just put a big Creative Commons disclaimer. So it just says 3.0 or I don't know what it says, but it just says anyone can use them for anything. I honestly don't care if anyone uses any of my stuff because it's not going to get used if I don't put it out there. It's just going to sit there. I do this stuff for practice. It's good practice for me.
Right.
Good practice for me to draw, and it's good practice for me to take pictures, and may as well just put it out there in case anyone wants it.
Right.
And that's really cool because that's the attitude I've been seeing more and more in our field is people are using work as a way of practice. That's kind of how I do my job. I propose some crazy ideas there so I can explore and push myself, and if it works, it works. If not, it was a good lesson learned for me and the entire team. And who knows the community if I'm sharing it out there, the failures and successes. And people are more open to doing this.
Yeah, I feel like what you're doing, I think, Enzo, your attitude on this is why you're Enzo Silva now. You know what I mean? You're internationally known, so to speak. But I would say that I feel like that was something that was more rare when you and I were coming up in the industry because we're so old. But I've been following people like Melissa and Rachel and Ashley Chiasson. Am I pronouncing her name correctly?
I always butcher everyone's names, but Ashley.
Okay, sorry. I've been watching people, who are starting out. There's another young gentleman I've been following as well, whose name escapes me. And I like just basically the forward, okay, we'll do this thing, we'll put it out there, and we'll just let people look at it. I feel like a lot of that is due to people also coming up, not just with tools to share.
Oh, is it Michael?
Yes.
See, isn't that crazy how you just know who it is?
Yeah.
Michael's so cool too. He's from Pennsylvania and he does these awesome flat drawings. He's been doing that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that he was. That's right. He was on Twitter and you guys were like, "Oh, these are really cool drawings," and I went and checked them out. I was like, "Yes, they are."
Michael's really cool. I feel like everyone's so in that group of people, everyone's so friendly and we're all willing to help each other and the piece of putting that content out there that goes along with it. Everyone's so open.
Right.
And sharing.
what is it going to hurt? If anything, you are building your own brand, and people know that you're out there. So if I need to hire somebody, for example, that has Melissa's style of work, I'm gonna it's gonna ring a bell, right? Oh, I remember that girl. She was sharing all kinds of cool stuff there with the community. She's outgoing. She knows what she's doing. Who knows, right? That could even be a personal opportunity, a personal growth opportunity, a networking opportunity, and I don't see why people don't share more.
Well, so I have a question for you guys, and this is something that I've been thinking about a lot in the past few months, and it's something that I wish would come to fruition. Do you think it's possible for someone to share, like, actual, not things they make, but like actual content, like scenario-based learning, like just like different things like that? Because I have been wanting to volunteer and like create like different scenarios, like make them in an application, but I don't have the actual scenarios, and I want those. Like, so I wish someone would put that kind of stuff out there.
So I think
like examples.
So examples of scenarios as fully fleshed out, or the actual text, and then the branching direction of the scenarios?
Not necessarily. Well, maybe either or. I think it would be easier if you did have like the branching piece to it, but like the actual text and content versus like the template. You know what I mean? Like the actual.
So if I understand correctly, just to make sure, because for posterity and everything. If it's a matter of like having case studies that are somewhat fleshed out,
like a storyboard, maybe. So, for example, if I'm creating like a leadership training storyboard and I wanted to make it more interactive, maybe a scenario, then share that. So maybe Melissa could volunteer to help design it and maybe develop it even. Right? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about So I'll just give you an example. Say, because this is like my go-to. I don't know why. I think it's because I was a waitress like when I was younger. So say you wanted to do a training on customer service in like the restaurant industry. Like I don't have any. Like I would know what I would want to do. I want to build like a scenario around that, like an interactive scenario, but I don't have the actual content, like what are issues that come up, like how would you respond to them? Like I don't have that type of content.
Man, Melissa, so it's funny, I used to work for the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington, which was inside the National Restaurant Association building here in DC, and that was one of the first things I actually did as an instructional designer. Was put those together so they could be used in a food safety class. Like this was like too many years ago for me to actually number. But nothing really came of that. Like I did it for my own use, but it never occurred to me. And like now you're saying this now, it never occurred to me to once I got to a certain point to kind of put those in a store and then let people at them.
Yeah, and I just want the actual text, like the content. I don't even want anything built out because I want to take that and build something from it. Like I want to analyze the content and say, what kind of things can I build with this content?
So I think what would be necessary, and this is the anthropologist in me talking, like I feel like what would be necessary would be a bunch of ethnographic, interviews, essentially. Basically over I don't know. I mean, if somebody wanted to take the time to do this over a broad range of different subject matter experts, I would say, or you could focus within an industry and then kind of look at different areas of conflict and things like that. So, I don't know. That's.
Well, there's so much that you could do with that information. You could build like a mini series of like videos, like of scenarios. You could build like an e-learning. You could build a game. Like there's so many things. Like if you just have that information, because what I struggle with as a designer and designing like on my free time is that I don't have the content, but I have the ideas of what I want to build.
Right. Yeah. That would be a really cool. That would be a really cool project for someone who wanted to brush up on. I don't know if needs analysis skills are really what I'm talking about, but basically interviewing and kind of like getting to the pain points of a person's existence within their work context or whatever. Yeah.
Or maybe just a place where you could. What I've been thinking. You guys know because I know you about names for a community for a while now. For a while, I've had this idea of a community for learning, right? And one of the ideas that I have for this would be an area where you can share um, project requests. Share jobs for a volunteer or for pay, whatever it is, kind of like a freelancer, but in a sense, .com, but for instructional design only. That's one of the areas that I want on the website. One of them would be, another one would be to share templates and stuff like that. So I think something like this could fall into a job board type of deal, where I have a project here, here's the description of the project, here's the content I have for the project. I have this source material from a subject matter expert, and I'm thinking about turning this into X, Y, and Z, and you can have various degrees of what you already know you want, or all I have is the raw material, what can you do with that? Type of job descriptions. And I think this would be something that, and I don't know if there is a demand for that, but just from hearing Melissa say, apparently there could be a demand for something like that, and I'm not just dreaming here.
I feel like it would have to be more than kind of the job description. It would have to be a full, this is the position, this is the context of the work, this is a problem that a particular person is having, this is where they're trying to actually make performance improvement incursion. These are the problems that they're encountering. I'm actually right now working on a piece linking learning analytics and XAPI, and we are, long story short, we're writing kind of an entire story associated with to demonstrate how this would work, and that's kind of the best way to do this is through narrative. But it's kind of to Melissa's point, and maybe to yours as well, Enzo. It's not easy work. Like, it actually gets harder as you move through it. You outlined it up, you do your research, etc. It's kind of hard to move actually through what you want to do and getting it described correctly, and getting that text out there and getting the decision points right if you want to do that. So it would be cool to have like a general location or a general cache of these of this stuff, but I also, after working on it a little bit, I imagine that people would want to, and this is where sharing may or may not break down, or maybe I'm just really selfish, but this is where people may want to hold on to stuff like that and maybe make those available for for a fee or whatever. That would actually be
but if you have, I'm not sure you have used freelancer.com before or one of those. You post something, you can post a project as private as well, and only after you look at whoever is interested, you can approve them to look at everything, and then you start a conversation there. So the idea would be you post it either as public or private, and people start, in a sense, bidding, and you can look after people, for example, in this community started posting more blogs, building clout. For people like Melissa, for example, their profiles would easily stand out with good reviews and stuff like that. You can see that they're a contributor often and all that kind of stuff, and they have specialty in X, Y, and Z. You would start seeing those surfacing. So if they come in, I want to join your project, you can have a little bit of that community trust to look at that person. Yeah, I think I trust them to help me with this project, or not, or that person doesn't have enough experience or whatever. It could be. So I think it could be something that works out pretty soon. We'll see.
No, so freelancer, you just post a project. It's not like Odesk or like Fiverr.
Yeah, it's similar to Fiverr in a sense, except you're not restricted to $5, $10, $20. Could be thousands of dollars on a project, for example. Yeah, it's similar to Fiverr. You post a description of what you want, and you can be private or not.
Yeah, that stuff always interests me.
Yeah. I love the format on Fiverr too. So it's a similar idea. You post your project. You can either find the person proactively or just post your project generally, and people sign up for it.
That's cool.
You choose the person that has know that by the community reviews, by the clout they have in the community, which our community is not as huge as you would think. So we kind of tend to know each other, right? In a sense.
I guess that's true. As we demonstrated earlier. True.
Well, we were talking about that because I actually just went to the Philly new tech meetup, and I was hanging out with Aaron Silvers and
Oh,
Will Constantine.
yeah, I saw the tweets. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and we were talking about how our community is so small, and everyone who is like actually active, like socially on like social media, knows who everyone is. So
It is
Did,
kind of
uh,
crazy.
funny.
did Aaron tell you about Up to All of Us?
Did what?
Did Aaron tell you about Up to All of Us?
No.
Okay, well, I'll save that for the links list later.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's sort of you'll see it later. But it's sort of a demonstration of kind of how a lot of us intersect, and then kind of take that to hopefully fruitful conclusions, or kind of furthering our abilities. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. One of the things I do like, though, I mean, and you guys are heading in this general direction, but that there is so much more and this is like old time Craig talking, but like there's so much more collaboration, like actual collaboration now, not just kind of talking about things and shaking our fists, but like people are actually doing things together and building things, and I'm definitely here for that. So I wanted to seg really quickly into something that I did over this past weekend. So some colleagues of mine here at ADL, well, one colleague of mine here at ADL and a few other people within the industry, speaking of people who know each other, got together to do a XAPI and Internet of Things hackathon up here in Rockville, Maryland, which was about an hour away via the metro. It was like all night Friday into like up to 6 p.m. Saturday at the old courthouse there, and we had a bunch of sensors and Raspberry Pis and other single board type computers and huge monitors, and basically we were working to just. But the big part that I thought was really interesting was the actual design of what we're working on, the things that actually mattered. So I can't actually show you the page because I don't have another screen, and that's really sad. But the a lot of the things that we were working on were trying to figure out how to provide better performance outcomes for first responders in healthcare, and basically making sure that data flows from mobile ambulances were possible using the specification and using the technology that we had. And some really interesting things came out of that. People who were at that event are still working on things, and people traveled from kind of a fair distance. Actually, one person traveled from Pennsylvania to do the event, and is exactly the kind of thing that would have been difficult to organize, I think, a few years ago. I think it would have been hard to kind of get a few people together, stay up all night, get a bunch of pizza, and sit down and actually just like hack. But not just hack as in like playing around with the computers, but actually sitting down and thinking through design. Dr. Brenda Bannon from George Mason University was organizing the event, along with Shelley Blake-Pock from Yet Analytics and a few other people. It was really, really interesting, and it kind of got me thinking. I would love to get more events like that together, where you got a weekend, we got a bunch of stuff, we're going to sit down with a bunch of whiteboards and try to think through a particular problem and then see what we come up with from the design standpoint.
I agree. So how did you get everyone together? Because that's something that I struggle with in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia is like a big city, and you can get all of the ed tech people, so the K-12 higher ed people,
right.
they will do this stuff. But anyone in our field in Philadelphia, I cannot get anyone to do anything.
Well, pizza was key, I have to tell you. We got a fair amount. We got pizza. We gave people the chance to kind of play with some stuff, which was nice. But yeah, actually, I don't know. I mean, again, I wasn't the one who organized it. Dr. Bannon and Shelley and Dr. Shane Gallagher, also from George Mason University, they did a lot of the organizing. A lot of it was, through channels that people already knew. One thing I think that would be helpful, though, is to kind of set it up through Meetup. I don't know if you guys use Meetup.com, but in the DC area, there are a lot of like pretty well-attended meetups and just regular events that happen. I think that would be a good way to kind of draw people out. The problem is it can't just be a one-off. As far as I see, it has to be like a thing where people can show up regularly, and then, okay, I can't make it this weekend, or I can't make it this week. I'll definitely make it next week or next month or whenever. The other thing is that, okay, for us, for me, it was really helpful, even though, for those of you who don't know the DC area, whatever, I live in Alexandria, Virginia. The event was in Rockville, Maryland, but I could get there entirely via the metro system, and it took me like an hour, right? So I didn't have to get in the car and drive anywhere. The metro was like a couple blocks away from the location where we were going. That was key. I'm not as familiar with Philly's transport system or traffic.
It's awful. Philadelphia
awful.
is the worst.
I am familiar with Atlanta's transport and traffic, and I kind of thought
awesome.
It's awesome. Is that what you said? Yeah. But that's one of the things that I don't know. It would be nice. I mean, honestly, it would be nice if virtual events could be, the kind of the panacea for what we're looking for. But I really don't think so. There was something really good about kind of sitting down with people for like hours at a time.
It is good. It's
drawing stuff out. Yeah.
That's what I like, and that's what we don't have here for our community. The EdTech group does, but it's very hard for me to relate to what they're doing because it's not really very similar. But I mean, I get ideas, but it's not similar.
Right, you can't say.
And still on the topic of sharing work, right? I've been considering doing like an unconference or whatever here in the Atlanta area for a while for learning, but I struggle with the idea of there's already ISPI, there's ATD, Atlanta, all kinds of organizations are doing some actual free for anybody events that you can do, gatherings like that. What is the advantage of doing it in an unconference style or doing it like an informal gatherings through meetup like that, what do we offer in that setting that organizations don't?
ATD makes you pay for everything. Like, I don't get that. Why don't they just do, like, you pay for your membership and that includes, like, everything? Like, this is...
Well, the membership would be expensive.
Yeah, I was going to say, to be fair, and, like, I felt this way myself, to be fair, like, kind of having seen the guts of some of the organizations that we work in, it's expensive to kind of manage certain things, so I can sort of see why they might do that. That being said, I'm not a member of any organization, local or national, anymore, so... So yeah, I think the advantage, kind of to Melissa's point, I think the advantage would be having a self-selecting group who are dedicated to doing and making something, and not, not
because you're giving it back. Like you're making something to help other people usually.
Right. Well, you have to start with that idea, and I think a lot of the local branches of whatever organizations that we're talking about, and even the national, they have operating costs to that go to actually running the organization. If you're just kind of out there doing stuff, you're probably okay. Like for example, like the pizza that I was talking about earlier, like that came out of somebody's pocket. But the greater gain for the greater good of the industry and of people doing stuff, that was more important. So if you can do that, that's great. And that's the kind of thing I agree with you, Melissa, I'd like to do as well. It's why I'm also happy to work within an organization that kind of will take that kind of thing on, so it's on my shoulders. But yeah.
Well, what people do in Philadelphia, because we have such a huge tech community, and like the thing about our industry is, I wish we would do more things that the tech industry is doing. Like you can partner with a nonprofit and build training for them, and they'll give you like a facility to do your like hackathon in, and give you like some food, like I don't know why we're not doing more stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I think we would have to, and I kind of wish, like, I'm just going to call it out because I know they're going to come after me, but I kind of wish the ATD or the e-learning guild or IST or ISPI would do, and maybe they have done this, and we'll get a bunch of crazy hate mail, but I kind of wish they would go.
You're evil.
So
guys, that is Melissa talking, not me. No, I will say that. I wish they would go to nonprofits and say, hey, we have people who are looking for volunteer opportunities. Do you have some stuff that we can actually get into? There's also, do you guys know?
Lingos.
Lingos, right. Melissa, are you familiar with that?
No. I've heard of it, I just don't know about it.
It's Learning for NGOs, isn't it? Learning for NGOs? LINGOS.org, I think. Lingos.org. They go to conferences like major conferences, and they ask for people to sign up to volunteer and create e-learning for NGOs, basically.
But my issue with volunteering is that, like, in conjunction with my job, I do freelancing, so I could do volunteering, like, at a hackathon and, like put a whole small product out in like a weekend, but I don't like my issue, and I think a lot of people's issues because they have families and they travel and all that, is that like it's hard to commit to something like that.
Yeah.
But doing it in a hackathon style, I mean, it's a weekend, right?
Right. It's like, okay, this weekend I'm doing this. It's on the calendar. Don't interrupt me for 90 hours.
I don't know how Windows does it.
Why don't we start something? Is there something called Learnathon?
No.
Why don't we organize some Learnathons in different areas? I'll organize one here in Atlanta, and the idea is you bring a problem and we come up with a solution in one weekend.
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, there is a Learnathon. Hold on. There is. I was going to say that's too good a name to not.
But I mean, there's like you're not necessarily learning. You're building something for learning. So.
Right. So kind of to your point, Melissa, one of the things that tech companies do is for hackathons, they'll work to build the minimum viable product, so the MVP, right? Yeah. And so I think as learning professionals, sorry, let me back up. As performance improvement professionals, we should probably work to create like a minimum viable product as a prototype for a type of solution for performance improvement. Yeah. I think a lot of times when we get together to talk about learning, that already takes us on the wrong track for something where we need to kind of spin something out really quickly. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Or like even prototyping, like that's not.
Yeah,
I think it could be not just a product, like an application. Normally think of these hackathons as an application, right? Why not? Maybe somebody's struggling to bring their curriculum to life, just like what you said there earlier, right? And through this informal meetup type of way, ideation starts going, and that learning, maybe a solution comes out of that. And it's with a trusted small group of individuals, so maybe that is the advantage of getting together in a smaller, informal setting. Something is brought up, and a problem is brought up, and the team work, or several, and different teams work throughout the day or however long the meetup lasts to come up with ideas for solving that problem. Whether it's a final product, maybe just an infographic or whatever it is, there's something there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like that idea a lot because it's, we don't want to start with the product itself. We want to start with where do we want to go. And then you could always have like a part 2 hackathon. So if you do come up with the whole idea and help them to execute it in the part 2.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was looking. I just did a quick look on Learnathon as a word, and a lot of them are still related to, from what I could see, hackathons still. It's not like for learning professionals to get together and create something. So I still think it's a valid thing that we could try to do. And,
all right.
And too bad this is being recorded, though. Now people are like, what if they don't do this?
Like, no, they have to do this now.
You can't commit to anything.
You can't commit to anything in a recorded format.
We're committing to thinking about it.
I'm still working on the thing. Brent put out his challenge about using his herpetology video, and I've still got that tied up in something right now. So.
Yeah, I want to see that video because that video's he's talking about this for weeks and weeks.
Oh well, so I wonder how many people have taken it on, but for me, it's just one of those things where I kind of looked at how video is handled in certain contexts using XAPI. Again, drink.
Is this a game? Like, wait,
yeah.
coffee?
I mean, I'm not having. Yes, I got it.
He's gonna have water overdose every time XAPI he drinks something.
Yeah, because that's my thing, Melissa. Now that's my entire world. So it's for me it was like a good way to kind of like plug it in and see how I could track experiences with video content. And that's something that's actually been tackled several times with people trying to create video-specific profiles for the XAPI. Therefore, best practices for using and tracking video. Like, did people watch this? How far in did they watch? Did they shuttle back and forth? Did they only watch up to the first minute? Did they skip to the end so they could get the links or whatever, or the recap? That kind of thing. So
that could actually bring interesting data for an article if you did that.
Oh well, people have beat me to that like by 2 years actually. I'd be old news. I just wanted to do it.
Some really creepy data potentially.
Yeah. I mean, no creepier than any of the things that we do currently. That's actually one of the things I talked to a couple of students at Georgetown University 2 weeks ago about XAPI, and that is, of course, one of the questions that comes up. Is like, what's the security of the data that we've got? It's like, well, do you have Facebook? Or use Twitter? Or God forbid, anything associated with Google, which is increasingly a disturbingly increasing number of things. Soon to include mobile communications for your phone. So, yeah, I mean, it depends. There are systems that can be that are hooked up. Much for example, patient health records. That is an area where people are looking to try and get EHR systems to export data in XAPI so they can be shared with the record stores.
Good luck.
Yeah, that's really cool. Technically, right, from a technical standpoint, we can probably do that. It's just a matter of getting things squared properly. From a privacy standpoint, I mean, that could be a big deal. So the nice thing is that there are already organizations that are working right now who are coming from the medical education and training standpoint who are already looking at that issue and kind of getting out ahead of it and then seeing, okay, how can we do this in a way that is not totally screwed for patients who already kind of have some trepidation about releasing public, their records into the cloud to begin with. So.
That would be interesting to see too. It's kind of scary to see. How our field, there's a lot of research that contradicts each other, right? Every once in a while, a new trend will come in and debunk everything else before it, and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of we dream a lot in our, I would think, in our field. It'd be interesting to see all that data coming up, and we're like, thinking that this really helps the users, the learners. This really helps the learners. And then as we start getting data out of all that the learners are interacting with, maybe even that 5-minute video wasn't useful at all, for example. They were just skipping through the whole thing, and they still passed the test and all that kind of stuff. It'd be interesting to see some studies on effectiveness of certain learning assumptions that we tend to make. Like the gamification, for example, didn't add anything to it.
Yeah, that would be. Well, it's funny. There is a fair amount of research on things. Actually, I just posted a link to the Debunker Club, which is something that Will Tallheim and other people are putting together to kind of, look at research associated with learning and performance improvement, but more importantly, to kind of say like that's not really true. Don't talk about learning styles like that. You don't know what you're talking about. So actually, but I do feel like I went to a conference in Korea last year, and the keynote speaker, or one of the keynote speakers, was talking about research for e-learning specifically, which is something you never really hear about, right? Just like a lot of research, and he was really. I'll have to find the name. I'll find his name for the show notes afterwards, and I'll post it to YouTube when this has been recorded. But it was just really stirring stuff. But I think you're right, Enzo. We don't talk about that kind of stuff enough, and I was just scribbling stuff because I didn't realize all of the research I could sort of access that kind of pointed to. But we don't have discussions. But I mean, that should honestly be one of our episodes. Is really like basically getting into educational research and then giving our opinions on, the stuff that we've read. But that would assume that we will have read, kind of the field of things, and that's.
I think we should invite Chad, Udell, and Clark Quinn to do one of their Mythbusters things here sometime.
Well, did you see Brent did a Will Tallheimer versus Clark Quinn on? Oh man.
Meerkat.
Yeah. What was it? What was the subject? Do you remember?
Kirkpatrick Mega Battle.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It was funny because someone was like, like Star Trek.
Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it was. I mean, in a way, it was shorthanded, but those guys have a fair grasp of the research and of the problems with the model. They actually kind of agreed a bit more than I think they thought they would originally, but it was good to see that sort of thing. I kind of would like to see more of that, like more of okay, what I would really like is epic rap battles of history, but learning research. That's what I would.
But I said to Brent, because at one point they were starting to do a role play, I was like, you guys should just do one of these that's just a whole role play.
Yeah, actually, we should put in, Melissa, we should put in a request, is what we should do.
Do it. Maybe we should do it here one of these days.
I don't know what would be done, but yeah, I agree. I just think I think there's so much good data out there, but we're not as well equipped, like within our company staff-wise, to do everything that we want to do. And I feel like that's one of those things that gets kind of pushed to the side.
Mm-hmm.
At least in my experience.
As we're speaking here, I'm actually creating a meetup on the Learnathon for the Atlanta area. We'll see if anybody signs up, and I'll keep you guys posted on that. You should do this for your area.
Yeah.
I'll send you the link to this one, and we'll see if people actually do sign up. Because it's amazing. Social media is not just put it out there and they'll come. It's kind of interesting how many times things just don't happen.
Yeah, you got to goose it to some degree. You got to put it out there, and I hate to say it. I mean, to some degree, you have to have a couple events before people go, oh, okay, well, this is a thing that's happening. I should be involved.
Exactly. Even if it's like 2 people starting something, kind of like we're doing this Hangout here. If people want to join us, they'll join us.
Yeah, exactly.
Melissa joined us. Melissa's now part of the actual thing.
One of us.
I enjoy it. I work from home, so like this is like social time for me.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's well, speaking of, I'm actually going to have to step out. There's a couple things I wanted to talk about though before I went, but I think I can throw them to the show notes.
No, talk about them now. We have 5 minutes to go.
Okay, all right. Okay, real quick, man. What did I want to say? Okay, so last week, the CMI5 working group meeting happened here at the ADL office here in Alexandria. Do you guys know what CMI5 is?
No.
That's good. Not good because we don't know, but because I also didn't have a good understanding of what CMI5 was, so I created a Storify of my tweets that I did from the meeting. I did mostly day one, but I included a bunch of stuff they were talking about, including, what is it, things like that. But I didn't stop there. No. I also went ahead because I was trying to be as obnoxious as possible. I said, hey guys, if you could step into this room and then talk into the camera, I'd like to ask you some really, really dumb questions about CMI5. Like, what is it?
What does it stand for?
Actually, here's a fun fact. Nothing. Not anymore. It's like KFC. It's like KFC. Also, CMI5, it's lowercase c, lowercase m, lowercase I, 5. So it's very futuristic looking. I'm going to post a note right here to a YouTube playlist of people who answered my questions. I think Ben Clark from Rusticy Software, Henry Ring from Inexol, Art Workington from Risk, and Andy Johnson from ADL answered my questions. I think I asked, what is CMI5? What do you want instructional designers to know about CMI5? And how does CMI5, XAPI, and SCORM interrelate? So I got some interesting questions. In particular, Henry Ring answered all 3 of my questions in like 40 seconds flat, so I didn't have to edit a thing. He's very to the point. So check if you guys have time, check those out. They're also, I think, at the end of the Storify that I did, which was the second to last thing that I put in there. That's probably it. I think we talked about most.
What a ridiculous cliffhanger! Are you going to tell us what it is or not?
Oh, CMI5. So check it out. No, CMI5 is a profile to describe. It's basically It is the LMS use case for XAPI, which is really interesting. So one of the things about XAPI, unlike SCORM is like this is made for online training within a browser. No disconnections. It's basically you're going to get a course, right? Which is why e-learning authoring tools have flourished, because you kind of have a pretty specific use case. There's only a few things you can do. There are only a few verbs or things you can communicate, and that's fine, right? If you're doing a certain type of thing. The cool thing about XAPI is that you can do anything. Like the planes and axes of the things you can do are almost limitless. The bad thing about XAPI is that because the planes and axes of things that you can do are almost limitless, there are not as many abstraction tools that have been created to do things with it, which is why it's, I think, in my opinion, difficult for instructional designers to get a handle on XAPI, because we're used to making things and then seeing how that works and then going from there. CMI5 takes XAPI back to the LMS use case, right? So it's you can do things that are like SCORM, but you can go beyond that within the confines, but still within the confines of an LMS. I've read the spec a couple times now, which is something I hardly ever do. I certainly never did that in one sitting with Storm, and I don't recommend it. But it was really quite interesting. The four gentlemen in the videos that I took, none of the videos are longer than I think 3 minutes. I did a much better job of explaining what CMI 5 is and what they want you to know about it. But they have some pretty interesting opinions about where things are going, and it's another one of those acronyms that we'll have to keep in the back of our minds as we're trying to create different abstractions to get things done. Like a lot of things, we'll need more people to pioneer things. I think they're working on the developer version. That'll be announced, I think, in July, and they'll have a full public version by the end of the year, I think by probably September, October. So, yep. So no cliffhanger, except for the cool stuff you can look at on the videos and stuff like that.
Well, I'll check it out.
Yeah, so that's kind of it. We are, after the hackathon, we've been working on, in the ADL office, some of my colleagues have been working on some more basically installing LRSs on Raspberry Pis and trying to make it, kind of set out directions and examples for things that people can do at home. So kind of maybe things that people can do on the road or do at hackathons we can actually get set up. And I'm looking forward to getting that the XAPI boot camp here set up in Alexandria in July. One of the days will be just workshops and things. So we're currently working on a workshop list. So that's pretty much it. Also, final thing before I go, because I got like 1 minute, and this is sort of a personal favor that I'm asking for everybody. So I've got a website. I think I shared it. I think it's on the thing at the bottom here. One of the things I do on the website is I have a thing called the whip, and it's not what you're thinking, but it is. The whip is basically a list of things that I want to learn how to do in 2015. So I learned how to use a certain drawing software. I think the last challenge, creating the website itself to house the whip was one of those things. Following up on a few other things are tasks I have. My current task is knot tying. So we're stepping out of the digital and into something kind of physical. So yes, I've been practicing that.
What's your reason for not tying? I'm just curious.
Well, someone suggested it. Also, my stepfather he retired and then decided, hey, I want to become a first responder. So he goes to the fire station and he trains all day. He's in much better shape than I am actually. And one of the things he's learned is not tying for different actual situations like lifting people out of areas or making sure things are secure. And I was like, you know what, that's a really interesting thing. So my writing partner, Dave LaCroix, he suggested that I take something non-digital and work with that. So I'm in the process of producing a video right now of the proof that I can actually tie these knots on command. So, but that's not the important part. What I'm going to need from you guys is if you go to my website, there's a link that says on the left-hand side that says the whip.
I'm on it.
Okay, cool. Please suggest from the list that's on there. Please suggest the next thing that I should learn, or add something else that you think I should try to learn. I give myself around 2 weeks to figure it out, and then provide proof that I've done it. So it could be on the list, or it could be something different. But I'd really appreciate your input. So
which one of these websites is that again? Is startify.com? Is that the one?
No, that is, which one is it? It is what's right here in my thing. It says craigwiggins.github.io.
The GitHub one. Yeah, all right.
And there's the link that says whip. All right, guys, take it easy. I will see you in a couple weeks.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Enjoy
Have
your
a good
weekend.
one. You too.
Are we going off?